I'm a frequent purchaser of almond roca.
So they gave you a purse?
Yeah, they give me a purse. And let's see, 52 years old, have 6 kids, done a lot of things in my life, and had a great life. I love it. We have a great family. We do a lot of fun things, and I've traveled all around the world when I was younger. My dad was in the Air Force, so we lived all kinds of places. Brothers were born in Germany, lived in the Philippines. I was born in Mississippi, and we've been to California and Nebraska. My dad retired in Nebraska. He retired from the Air Force in Nebraska. Then he got hired on Boeing, so we came up to Tacoma, finished high school, and that's how we ended up here. So I've been up here ever since.
Where was that in Germany?
Hof was one place, and Nuremberg. So it's Hof and Nuremberg.
I guess.
So let's start off. Brought some. I know everybody can always use paper, right?
Ooh, yeah.
So I want to start off with a story today. Had kind of an interesting experience yesterday. I'm buying a new paint booth, and so this paint booth is like the Taj Mahal of paint booths. It is like one of the best ones you can get. Yes. No, thank goodness. It's used, so I'm getting it for way less. But my painters probably want to spend the night in it. It's just beautiful. You can control the climate, everything in it. Has 1 million BTUs rather than ours right now has about 200, which is normally about enough to heat a whole house. 1 million in a room probably about this size. That's an awful lot of heat. So you can completely control it even when you're when you have the fans going and air is being sucked out, it's recirculated and it has a even temperature. And if you want to cook a paint job, you can hit the cook portion and it'll bump it up to about 150 degrees. You want to step out for a little bit, and it'll dry the paint really well. So I've been looking for a while, and so I came across this, which leads me on to the story I'm about to tell you. The guy selling it used to have 2 body shops in the area. Well, actually one in Everett and one in Kent. And so I've talked to him for quite a while on the phone, and then yesterday I met with him for about 2 hours, and we talked. Super nice guy, a couple years younger than me, real similar in age, and start off the same way. Start off working hard and building a business and hiring employees, and next thing you know, they took on a couple insurance companies, contracted with them, and his business, it really took off. He got real busy. And he made pretty good money for a while. Got to the point, though, that it was just overwhelming. He had like 25 employees, 2 locations. It got to the point where he was working 7 days a week. He had no life. His wife hardly ever saw him. His kids were starting to grow up, and he's never around. He's always working. His painter was sick. He'd have to go fill in because he was, he could do everything in the shop. If his manager, something happened, he'd have to go fill in as a manager, an estimator, whatever it was. So the quality of life really wasn't there. And so I'm curious about this whole situation. He's telling me the story. I'm like, well, I know the shop he's at because he sold it. He ended up selling it. So what happened was a big Gerber, a big corporation, came around and said, hey, we're interested in opening a couple body shops. Here's what we'll offer you for both of your body shops. This offer is good for a week. And so he thought about it, and he's like, man, life really sucks right now. I don't know. It was acceptable. It was a decent offer, but at the same time, he's built up his business, and it was kind of like, am I just going to give up? So he talked to his wife, and they both agreed, you know what? It's not about the money. We need a life. And so he took the offer, sold both of his shops, and he's basically working on his own right now. He has a shop. He bought a house, paid cash for it. But he doesn't have much of a retirement, and he is basically a one-man operation with another guy helps him out, and he kind of went full circle. He started off on his own, did the big thing, and went back. So I've been thinking about this whole situation, like, and of course he asked me what I do, and we had this discussion, and I told him, I started the same way, and I said, I think business is great, I love the industry, and things are going well. We've done a lot of things different, and that's what my whole point of this presentation is, that at Center Collision, we are not your average body shop. We do things different, and where he, I think, went wrong was he became what we call a fireman at some point. He never had things in place in his business to allow him to work as an owner. And I don't know that he really wanted to. I think he was more comfortable working on cars and being hands-on. And a lot of guys are that way, and that's okay. But if you want to run a business and you own a business, you either need to hire somebody to run it effectively or do it yourself. And so he was at the mercy of his business. His business ran him ragged, and paid him okay, but I think he earned every penny of it because he was 24/7, no life, but he was living on the lake. Life has definitely changed for him. So, anyways, I just look at him, and I think there's lessons to be learned, and that's why I go to conventions. I always try to talk to these other body shop owners and find out how they're doing things, and find out what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and I don't want to be stressed out, work 7 days a week, really, and not be happy with what I'm doing. So, what I want to talk about today is consistency. And when you set up a business, and I will say when I started in business, I started just like he did, with an idea, with a dream, with some fire, because I really liked working on cars. I enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. And I just figured, okay, I'm just going to do more of this, and it'll be a business. But I never really thought about a lot of things. I didn't think about until later on about the business side of it. Having employees, the different things that go along with like a business plan, just simple things like that. You've heard the word before, the term, but I never really grasped it. So I want to share a story. Has anybody read this book, the E-Myth? It's called the E-Myth. You read it, Manny? Okay. So this is a great book. I'm not a huge reader, but certain books, I hear it enough. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to break down and read this book. I brought my glasses this time. So I could tell you the story, but I just want to read it because this really makes a lot of sense to me. There's one story in here. It's not real long, but I just want to read this to you. Okay.
You can memorize it?
Sorry, not yet. I'm working on it. Started at the beginning. This one's halfway through. Okay, so while the business must look orderly, it is not sufficient. The business must also act orderly. It must do things in a predictable, uniform way. An experience I had not too long ago illustrates this point. I went to a barber who, in our first meeting, gave me one of the best haircuts I had ever had. He was a master with the scissors and used them exclusively, never resorting to electric shears as so many others do. Before cutting my hair, he insisted on washing it, explaining that washing made cutting easier. During the haircut, one of his assistants kept my cup of coffee fresh. In all, the experience was delightful, so I made an appointment to return. Of course, why not? This is the best haircut he ever had in his life. When I returned, however, everything had changed. Instead of using the scissors exclusively, he used the shears about 50% of the time. He not only didn't wash my hair, but not even mentioned it. The assistant did bring me a cup of coffee, but only once, never to return. Nonetheless, the haircut was a good haircut. Several weeks later, I returned for a third appointment. This time, the barber did wash my hair, but after cutting it preliminary to a final trim, let's see. This time the barber did wash my hair, but after cutting it preliminary to a final trim. This time he again used the scissors exclusively, but unlike the first two times, no coffee was served, although he did ask if I would like a glass of wine. At first I thought it might be the assistant's day off, but she soon appeared busily working with the inventory near the front of the shop. As I left, something in me decided not to go back. It certainly wasn't the haircut. He did an excellent job. It wasn't the barber. He was pleasant, affable, seemed to know his business. It was something more essential than that. There was absolutely no consistency to the experience. So I love that story because, here's the problem. The first time he went in for the haircut, they set the bar. Okay, the bar was right here. Okay, next time he came back, they didn't meet that bar. The next time, it was so inconsistent. He didn't know what the heck he was going to get. Are they going to wash my hair? Are they going to use this? The shears are going to, basically from the first time he went there, he was convinced that the way he was doing it was the best way to do it. But then when he came back, he didn't do it that way. So it was confusing. So I have the same philosophy in our business. I believe people should have the same experience, whether they come on a Monday or a Friday. If somebody has a good experience, they send their friend in. I want them to have the same experience. So we've been working on consistency in our business for quite a long time. And lately, the last month, I've really hit it hard on my whole topic of this discussion is policies. Okay, and I think policies are what makes your business consistent. And I had a bit of a misconception on the use of policies because, it almost sounds like reminds me of the word budget. I'm like, oh, budget, that just means less money, less freedom, things were good and now we got a budget, So policies can be looked at that way, but at the same time, you can turn that whole situation around. For example, in our shop, I'm going to give you some examples and policies we have. I've written 61 so far, so I can tell you I've been on a roll. If somebody's doing something, let's just say Joe is a technician, okay, and he's working on cars, and for some reason Joe never has any comebacks. His jobs are perfect. He gets it done quick. He makes good money and he makes it look easy. Wouldn't you want everybody in the shop to know how Joe does it? And matter of fact, maybe Joe should teach everybody else, hey, here's how you can do it. Do this job quicker, consistently. The comeback ratio is very, very little, so he's doing the job right and have good results. Wouldn't that be something that everybody as a technician could benefit from? Probably, right? So that's the whole point of policies, is to take good ideas and share them with the rest of the group. Now, there's also another part of it is to make sure that, to protect the business, so that from when I started writing policies a while ago, it's been my idea that when something goes wrong in a company, that you should write a policy so that the next time that situation comes up, everybody will know the proper way to do that, because otherwise you're still wide open. I'm going to throw this example. I know probably John and Vanda know about this one, but I have a friend who was involved in a car lot a while ago, and when I started writing some basic policies a long time ago, I asked him, because he had like 26 employees, let's talk about Randy, and I said, you guys got some policies, right? Because I'm getting ready to write some policies, and I was curious, maybe I could take a look at yours and see how you do it. And he said, you guys are already laughing. And he goes, we don't have any policy. We don't have anything in writing or anything like that. And I said, well, why? I said, why? How can you operate a big business like that? I mean, I only got a couple employees. How can you have a big one and not have any basic policies? And he says, well, yeah, it's the way we do things here. And well, anyways, I've learned that there's key things you should have in your policy books. Just knowing that it's unethical to steal isn't good enough. You got to write it in your policies, and it's in our policies. It is against our policy to lie, cheat, or steal at center collision. And there's a few other things I threw in there too. So anyways, the reason I bring that up is because a few years later, that same company where I asked them about the policies, he had none. They got their pantsuit off them for something that they should have had in a policy book. And he even told me that later. He says, had we had that in a policy, it would have completely changed things. A policy signed by the employee, it could have resolved a lot of what happened. So, anyways, consistency is key, and I think policies are the way to get a company on the same page. So I'm just going to pass these around. What this is I found the easy way to do policies. I just asked my consultant, and he sent me this form. So what I did in the past is I just write a paragraph, then I'd write, I call it this policy, then I'd write another paragraph, and I have about another policy, and they could be completely unrelated. It was really, it was a book with policies, there's some basic ones, but it wasn't really in a good format, and I don't think the employees got a whole lot of sense out of it. So what I've done now is I've taken, each policy is on a different page, okay? So every time, if I need to add to the policy book, they just write just got a template right here, and I just fill it out, and it's quick and simple. But like I said, it's taken me hours to do this, and I'll pass these around here. But I'm in business for a long term, so I think that these are going to help us be consistent, and they're going to protect us from some bad things that could happen. I'll give you some examples here in a minute, but basically in this little outline here, you would just put what I've done is I just have a copy of this in my computer. So I just come in and I change a policy title to whatever policy. It could be like the parking cars policy, whatever it is. And then I would just put the date on it, and then I would put who it's to. So the policy might be for the office staff, it might have to do with financial stuff, or it could be completely for the guys out in the shop. So it'd be a technical item or something like that. Or a policy could be basically for everybody. It could be like our vacation policy, that pretty much has to do with everybody. So I write who it's to, and then the purpose of the policy. So the purpose, what's the reason that you're writing a policy? I have to ask myself this question, well, I'm trying to prevent this from happening or solve a problem. So I just think of it, but I want it all really basic and simple. I don't want long paragraphs about it. So the purpose could be, let's see, I'll give you one here I wrote here. Okay, well, this is a key policy, okay? You could probably imagine in a shop, have you ever lost keys?
No.
Okay, good. Us either, but we just put this.
Short term, not permanent.
But we just put this just in case we ever misplaced a key in our shop. Okay, I'll be honest with you, losing keys, it happened a lot in our shop, but we've changed some things to prevent that. So I'll just run through the key policy here. So I have the date on it, and this one's all employees. And the purpose I put was to have a responsible plan for handling vehicle keys in the workplace so that we can prevent losing or misplacing keys while they are in our possession. Simple enough. That's, cut to the chase. Procedure. So what is this policy all about? What does it entail? So I put down here that all keys are to be handled as follows. And number one is all keys are to be tagged by the office staff with the yellow key tags immediately once we have the keys in our possession. So first thing we do, we have a whole stack of tags, and rather than just like, here's the keys, we put a tag on it. So if they are misplaced, at least we'll be able to look at the tag and see, whose keys they are, what kind of vehicle, and usually solve that pretty quickly. The second one was all key tags that will be filled out completely, including the RO, the make, and the model, and the color. So not just have a tag on it, but actually put in vital information on it. So third one is keys for cars parked in the parking lot are to be hung on the tag on the black keyboard located on the back wall of the main shop on the proper stall number. So I was a little specific on this one here. So if a car is outside, now we have cars inside, I haven't got that yet, but the cars that are outside the shop that are in our possession, we have a keyboard. It's a big board that we made up, and it's almost an identical picture of our parking lot with numbers and everything on it. So if we have a car install number 15, then the keys go on number 15, okay? And that's just for cars that are outside. So now if the car is inside the shop, they're to be placed on the front windshield wipers. Now, I think this is kind of a key thing, no pun included. A very important thing here. Now, there's a lot of places you can put keys, okay? You can stick them in the door, you can put them on the roof, you can put them under the seat, you can stick them in the trunk, you can put them in the ignition. So I decided, you know what? I really don't care where we put the keys. So I opened this up to the guys one day in our meeting. This is probably one of the first policies we ever came up with because it was a problem we were just having all the time. And so I said, guys, I don't really care where we put the keys when the car is inside the shop. So what do you think? And I think that was a really turn of events on my part because it got everybody involved. And they all felt like, hey, you know, he's asking me, what do we think? I'm like, I don't really handle the keys. You guys handle the keys. What do you think would be a good place to put them? And one guy said, well, if you stick it in the door, there's always a chance you'll walk by and somebody will break it off. Very true. And another guy said, well, you can put it on the roof. You know, there's, I don't know. They thought of a couple different ideas, and they all decided eventually, you know what? One guy mentioned the windshield wipers, and everybody kind of thought, well, that sounds like a pretty reasonable place. You know, it's not in the way, and you can't, you know, it's not in the car, in the ignition. If we lock the car, you know, the keys are locked in or something. So when the car is in our shop, the employees have decided that the best place would be to put them on the windshield wipers. And it's worked out great for probably 5 years. So anyways, so that's where, when the car's inside the shop, that's where we put them. And then I just added one thing because this has happened before. I said keys are not to be placed in pockets. This has not worked out very well in the past. I had a guy that lived in Port Orchard, and he got almost all the way home before he realized he had the keys. And so, yeah, it happens. So, not that it's not going to, you know, accidents are going to happen, but somebody has got to be, you know, running this business, and as a business owner, probably has a lot of these ideas in their head, you know, like the business should always go well, but unless those ideas are shared with the rest of the crew in the form of policies or job descriptions, then they really just, it's going to be, you go back to the fireman thing, it's like, hey, let's, you know, let's, and when I say fireman, I mean, he's, it's almost like the dad thing. Like, hey dad, you know, dad, I need this. Dad, it's like, that's who you become unless you get everybody on the same page and you assign responsibilities. And so what I eventually did in my...
You're just going around putting out fires all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't mean going to get a job as a fireman, but that's what you feel like because, you know, somebody calls you when there's a problem, like, okay, I got to go, or I got to fix this problem, and I got to go fix that problem. Whereas if you have some basic policies in place and, like I said, job descriptions, and actually organize your business in a manner that excludes you from doing all those jobs, then you'll free your time up. So when I say we operate a little bit differently at Center Collision, that's my goal, is not to be the go-to guy every time, to have empower the employees so that when they have a problem, they know what to do. They know what the procedure is. They're not confused. And by doing that, you have a lot more efficient shop. Your production is going to increase, and basically, it's a lot happier environment to work in. So, I mean, if you look at big companies, I mean, ask yourself. Well, what's a big company? Name one. Huh? Boeing? Okay, you think they have policies?
McDonald's as an example.
Well, McDonald's was the example they used in the E-Myth,
Yeah.
which is perfect, and that's why they became what they did.
All the way down to how much soap goes in the bucket.
Right off the floor.
Wow.
That's why every hamburger tastes the same, no matter what store, what country you're in.
Mike,
Working salad.
bring Sadler.
We have all kinds, 40 years worth of procedures and policies.
How did you develop your policies? I mean, at what point, did you just sit down and just say, hey, we're gonna write all these policies, or you do it little by little?
Dawn started it years ago, and mainly for the same reason you said. Every time something was an error, you figured out a way for that not to happen again, and you wrote a policy and it went out. And then every year, we have an orientation day that we take a whole day, and we go through, we have tax memos, which tell you how to do certain tax situations. We have staff memos, we have personnel memos, we have computer memos. One more manual, I think. Those are the main ones. And then we have the employee's handbook. And in the handbook, you know, that one's been revised many times. So we have at least 6 or 7 documents that have to be signed annually every year. You know, sexual harassment, all those different things.
Because they're updated?
Yeah, they get updated and they get signed by the employees saying that they understand what these are. You will not believe what people will say when they get in trouble. We've had employees that were there for years and said that they didn't know who was the managing partner. It's only 4 of us. It's like, duh, you know, the guy that signs everything and does everything. It was crazy. Some of the stuff they testified to is.
You guys still have policies written down about how to use the abacus.
Yeah, right.
Which right?
That was the one thing I was gonna say, you do have to continually go back and update it.
Yeah.
Because we find, you know, stuff that was worked fine before, you know, doesn't, because the system's changed.
Yeah.
We don't have that system anymore, so you can't say do it this way because that won't work anymore. We call those basically procedures.
Right.
And then policies are the overall, you know, legal things usually that have to be dealt with.
Manon.
Thomas with Paychex has a whole HR division that they have policies and procedures and employee handbooks of other people in your industry that have already done it and can help you put yours together. That's one of the services that we have.
Yeah.
In the insurance business, we like you to have as many of those as possible.
Yeah.
Because it helps in a lawsuit that you can prove that they're not supposed to do whatever they do.
You know, when hiring new employees, before they start or anything like that, I always have them read through the policies. And of course, these are all changing because I've updated a lot of them and I've added some more. I realized there was more that I needed to have. I mean, I never even thought about having a bookkeeper policy, but I have a bookkeeper policy now. I mean, all these things. But you know, you get a different caliber of an employee when you hire them and you introduce them to how your company operates. I'll tell you what, most people, when I sit down with them and I review all the company policies, the ones that we had in place, I mean, there's like half the size we have now, they're just like in shock. They're like, I've never seen this before at a body shop. You know, like, man, it's almost like you're setting them up for success. You know, this is how we operate here, this is how we're gonna do things, rather than, there you go figure it out. You know, ask the guys if you get stuck, you know. So another one we wrote up, how am I doing on time? Everybody watching? Okay. Another one did, and kind of back to what Mike just said, you know, when things go wrong, they're not just right, so let's implement a policy so we can offer the best service, okay? And so I made this one, which is final inspection of vehicles policy. And basically the purpose was to ensure that vehicle repairs are completed prior to going to detail. So we've had a couple times where a guy came in, let's just say something simple like put a new mirror on his car. So you put the side view mirror on, hey, it's on there, it goes to detail, clean it up so the customer can get it. Guy never checked it. Hey, check the power. Does the thing work like it's supposed to? Or is it just on the car and is that good enough? I mean, we want to make sure it works. So the procedure was the following is to be done prior to vehicle going to the final detail. So technicians are to verify that any part that they worked on or replaced is in working order. So they're supposed to, they now understand that part of their job is not just stick it on the car, make sure it works. Make sure that no warning lights are on the dash. Sometimes things get triggered, so yeah, always check that. If the vehicle was towed in or sustained major damage, it is to be road tested to check for noises and make sure that there are no issues that were missed. And as a result, this is what you could expect, you know, by people following the policy. The results would be a properly repaired vehicle that will be ready for a customer pickup on schedule. Simple. So anyways, like I said, we do things a little differently at Center Collision. My goal is to offer a consistent product for customers to have a wonderful experience, and their friends that they send in have the same type of experience. So I know that we're not 100%, but that is my goal, and I know that I got a great team, and that's where we're headed. So, any questions?
Any comment on the feedback? I remember this happening before when you go in an auto body shop or whatever, repair shop, sometimes they put this big old tag on it. It's obvious now to me why they do that. It's so the guy doesn't take it and stick the keys in his pocket. Because it's too big, and if he does, he's gonna have to think about it.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, I've seen it with actually, I think it was kind of like a plastic ball thing, so you couldn't put it in your pocket. But I'm sure that was their solution.
In my office, we have a bathroom in the hallway, and they have them hanging on these CDs
Oh.
when people take them. I never thought of that, why you did that.
Okay. Well, I know we're out of time. Thanks.